Mary Lennox was an orphan, unloved and alone. She lived in the Gray City, a metropolis ruled by corporations that had outlawed nature. The sun was rarely seen, and the air was thick with smog. Everyone wore masks over their mouths and noses so they wouldn't breathe it in. Even the babies. Everything was gray except for the buildings owned by the companies who made the city run. They were brightly colored, but only to attract your attention to their logos. From the age of 3, when her parents died of a virus, Mary had been passed around from one foster home to another. But none of them wanted to keep her because she was smelly and unkempt and always got into mischief. So finally her aunt and uncle took her in, although neither of them really wanted to. Her Aunt Agatha was busy running her business, and her Uncle Archibald didn't even live in the city. He'd spent all his money on some strange research project. And so Mary was mostly left to herself. Her uncle's apartment was high up in a building in the Forgotten District, a place no one wanted to be seen in. So most days Mary just stayed in her room. That was until she heard a noise. It sounded like birdsong, but there aren't any birds in the city. Someone must have been mocking her. But then she heard it again, and it seemed to be coming from above. As she stood beneath the trapdoor in the ceiling, Mary could hear what sounded like children laughing and playing. Just then, Agatha came in, followed by 2 bodyguards. "Are you making friends now?" she asked suspiciously. "Don't talk to strangers," said one of the guards. "But I wasn't talking to a stranger. Shh, I was talking to you, Agatha," said Mary. Agatha ignored her and went out again, leaving Mary alone. A little while later, the trapdoor in the ceiling began to creak open. And looking up, Mary saw a girl with long brown hair and green eyes climbing through. The girl jumped down and introduced herself as Martha. "Martha? That's my name too," said Mary. "Oh, that's good," said Martha. "Then we can be Martha and Martha, just like those stories you used to read me before I went to sleep. Do you remember?" "Of course I do," said Mary. She hadn't read the stories to herself. They'd been her parents' bedtime stories. She could almost feel their love surrounding her as if they were in the room. The feeling was so strong that Mary burst out crying. "What's wrong?" asked Martha. "I don't know," said Mary. "I just miss my mom and dad, and sometimes I think I might have been better off if I'd never been born." Martha put her arm around Mary's shoulder. "You weren't better off not being born," she said, "or else I wouldn't be here, would I?" Then she asked, "Do you want to come see something beautiful?" Mary sniffed. "What? Come on," said Martha. "You won't believe it." Hand in hand, they climbed up to the trapdoor and opened it. The view that greeted them almost made Mary gasp. It was a garden. Not just any garden, but one that defied imagination. There were flowers of every color imaginable, trees heavy with fruit, bushes laden with berries and vegetables, and a sparkling fountain surrounded by shrubs. It was a paradise, an Eden in the sky. But then Mary noticed something strange. The plants seemed to be floating. Upon closer inspection, she realized that they were growing out of metal containers that had been stacked together like building blocks. The sight filled Mary with joy, a feeling she'd completely forgotten. She ran through the garden, laughing, touching the plants, inhaling their scent. It was intoxicating. "This place is wonderful," she said. "It's magic," said Martha. "Magic," repeated Mary. She looked at Martha and asked, "Why haven't I been allowed to come up here?" "My father doesn't want anyone to find the garden, especially not you," said Martha. "Why not?" "He thinks it isn't safe." "Why not?" "Because if the company finds out about the garden, they will destroy it. And the people who protect it along with it." Suddenly, a shadow fell over them, and both girls looked up to see a man standing above them, his face hidden in the shadows of his wide-brimmed hat. "Who are you?" asked Mary. "A friend," he said. "A friend of your father's." "Where's Martha's father?" asked Mary. "Working," said the man. "He goes out every day to get supplies for the garden. It's hard work, keeping this place going, especially now that there's 2 of you to feed." Mary felt ashamed. She hadn't thought about how much work it must be to maintain such a beautiful garden, or that food and water needed to be brought in. "Is there anything I can do to help?" she asked. "You may start watering the vegetables tomorrow," said the man, "and you can weed the flower beds." "Will Martha help me?" asked Mary. "She'll be your guide," said the man. "She knows everything about the garden." As Mary helped Martha water the plants, she asked, "How does the garden stay alive without soil and without the sun?" "It's magic," said Martha. Magic, repeated Mary. She couldn't understand how this place existed, but she was glad it did. At first, weeding the flower beds was hard work. Mary's hands were soon scratched and bleeding. But then something extraordinary happened. She touched the soil. She felt a tingling sensation spread through her arms. Looking down, she saw that the cuts had already healed, and her skin was softer than it had ever been. It was as if the garden's magic was healing her. Over the next few weeks, Mary worked hard in the garden. She weeded, watered, picked fruit and vegetables, and sat with Martha and the man, whose name was Tobias, while they ate. Sometimes she sat for hours watching Tobias work, mesmerized by his every move. He was handsome in a rugged sort of way, and kind and funny and patient. He treated her like an equal, not like a smelly, scruffy orphan. She enjoyed listening to him talk about his plans for the garden, about the birds that used to fly overhead, about the stars that twinkled in the night sky, things Mary had never seen or experienced. One afternoon, Mary found a small patch of weeds growing near the wall. "What are these?" she asked. "Tobias." "These are moonflowers," he replied. "They only grow where there's magic." Suddenly, a siren blared, cutting through the air like a knife. Both girls gasped. "What was that?" asked Mary. "That," said Tobias grimly, "is the sound of the reapers." Just then, Agatha appeared at the trapdoor, followed by two burly men. "Archibald," she shouted, "are you in there?" No reply. "I know you are," she said. "And I know you have something that belongs to me. Come out slowly now, and no funny business." "Funny business?" repeated Mary. What did she mean, funny business? When Tobias shook his head, Agatha strode past him and disappeared inside the apartment. The three of them rushed after her. When they reached the living room, they found Agatha rummaging through a cabinet. "What's in there?" asked Mary. "Nothing," said Agatha sharply. "If you want to help me look, you can start by bringing me those moonflowers you found earlier." Mary knew something was wrong, but she couldn't quite figure out what. Meanwhile, Tobias spoke quietly to Martha, who nodded her head. As Mary walked away, she heard Martha say, "We need to hide the moonflowers. If Agatha finds out about them, she'll kill us." Mary suddenly understood. The moonflowers weren't just magical. They were dangerous to the corporation. As Mary hid the flowers in a nearby bush, she heard voices. She looked up to see two reapers standing on the roof. Who were the reapers, and what did they want with the moonflowers? As she watched, one of the reapers raised his weapon and fired. The bullet hit the wall near where Martha and Tobias were hiding. Another shot was fired, and it hit the wall next to Mary. She screamed and threw herself to the ground. Mary looked up to see one of the reapers pointing his weapon at her. She closed her eyes tight, waiting for the pain to end it all, but it never came. When she opened her eyes, she saw a figure standing between her and the reaper. It was Agatha. "I told you to stay away from me," she hissed. "Why didn't you listen?" Agatha moved closer to the edge of the roof. "Should have killed me," she said softly. "I was right behind you." The reaper aimed his weapon at her and fired. Mary screamed as Agatha slumped to the ground. The other reaper turned to leave, but Tobias stepped out from behind the wall. "You killed my sister," he said. "Now it's my turn to kill you." Tobias lunged, and the two reapers opened fire. The bullets hit Tobias in the chest, and he fell to his knees. "No!" cried Martha. Mary wanted to help, but she couldn't think of a way. The reapers were too powerful. Then she remembered the moonflowers. Grabbing them, she hurried over to Tobias. 8. Kneeling down beside him, she pressed the flowers against his wounds. The moment she touched him, Tobias looked at her. His eyes were wide with surprise. Mary poured all her love, all her energy into Tobias, and as she did, the moonflowers began to glow. Light flooded the roof, pushing the darkness away. The glowing intensified until there was a blinding flash. Then everything went black. Mary woke up and gasped. She was lying on the ground next to Tobias. But something was different. The sky was a brilliant blue, dotted with white clouds. Birds sang and flew freely overhead. Mary smiled. Hey. Tobias was kneeling beside her, his hand resting lightly on her shoulder. "Look," he whispered. Mary looked up to see Agatha standing in front of them, her face pale and drawn. "Why am I feeling better?" she asked. "And why is this place so beautiful?" "You touched the magic, Mary," said Tobias. "It saved you. It saved us all." Mary knew that she'd never forget her time in the garden, the magic, the beauty, the freedom. She also knew that she'd never forget Tobias, who taught her that there was still good in the world and that she could make a difference. In the distance, Mary could hear children laughing and playing. She smiled and joined them, happy to be alive, happy to be free. The secret garden had been found, and hope had returned to the world.